Welcome to Technado.
Well, welcome to another episode of Technado. Before we get started, I do want to thank the sponsor of the show, ACI Learning, the folks behind IT Pro. A reminder that you can use that code Technado30 for a discount on your IT Pro membership. I am one of your several hosts, Sophie Goodwin, and happy Thanksgiving, although you may have noticed we kind of skipped over Thanksgiving here in our relocated studio. We jumped straight ahead to the holidays, but that's okay. It's Thanksgiving this week. We're having a great time. And I'm here with Don and Daniel, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Don, how are you today?
I am doing great. Yeah, we are in what I like to call Home Depot mode, where we set up the Christmas decorations before Halloween and get everything going. But no, the news keeps rolling even with the holidays, and so we're going to jump in and tackle some really weird stuff this week.
Yeah. Daniel, you got your tree up yet in your house?
Not yet. We're going this week to get the tree, get that all set up. The kids are in full on. We did watch Home Alone last night. So it's kind of kick off this season.
Yeah.
It was a good start, I must say. I was like, this is an entertaining film.
It's a good movie to start with.
Is that, just curious, number one Christmas movie?
Oh, what is my
What is your number one Christmas movie?
My number one Christmas movie is First Blood.
First Blood.
Yes.
Definitely Christmas movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it is at Christmas time.
Yep, they got a Christmas tree right in the police station.
So is Die Hard, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Die Hard is obviously a Christmas movie. So is Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon is set because in the beginning he's buying, drugs from a tree salesman, right?
Yeah,
it is Christmas. The Norelco Santa and everything, like it's all at Christmas time.
I guess I don't think of that one as a Christmas movie.
And Gary Busey, what did it? It's blanky blank Christmas.
Yeah. For me, it's Gremlins.
Oh yeah, always watch Gremlins.
Big, one of the first Christmas movies I'll watch. Yeah. Sophie.
Okay. Well, by that logic, that would make Goodfellas my favorite Christmas movie because there is a large sequence of that movie that he gets the most expensive tree they had.
But do you watch Goodfellas every Christmas?
Absolutely, I do. I watch Goodfellas every 3 months.
Just making
so
sure.
That's not.
Just making sure.
She does have a Goodfellas sticker on her laptop.
do.
Like she's dedicated.
So I only watch
somewhere
First
up there.
Blood
There you go.
at
Down here
time.
at the bottom.
Oh,
only at Christmas time?
Christmas.
I watch it
It's
once
exclusive.
a year, and I watch it at Christmas. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, on that note, now you know. We'd love to hear your favorite Christmas movies, questionable as they may be. We would love to hear from y'all in the comments if you are watching from YouTube. We'll go ahead and jump into our articles now. Less Christmas themed, which is probably good because it's still November. This first one comes to us from Windows Central. Microsoft Loop is now generally available with a host of new features and improvements. So if you don't know, Loop is actually a feature in Teams. I don't know if it exists outside of that or
it does.
before. It does?
It just
well, I
keeps
guess now it
sending
does.
you the message over and over
Yes,
again.
so you don't forget. Yeah,
It's a loop.
and you go crazy.
Yeah.
I use it quite frequently, actually, but I didn't realize now it apparently goes beyond Teams. And I know that Don has actually looked into this because I got an email from him last night that said, join my loop for Technado. So I did. Didn't really see much in there. I think maybe you were just kind of poking around to see what it was all about. So what's the verdict? What do you think about this?
All right. So if you haven't heard of Loop,
Let's say, what the hell is Loop, Don?
Let's start there. Yeah. There are a number of programs that are out there in the market that have been making impact, and Microsoft is trying to catch up with some of that. So if you've heard of programs like Obsidian or Notion, Logseek, these are designed to be kind of like note-taking applications. So you can just kind of jot your notes down. Nothing too fancy, mostly plain text. You can throw some images in there if you want, but very, very simple.
You don't tell me what to do now.
But, I will. And this is where you can tell other people what to do because you can share not just the whole note if you want, but individual pieces, individual components of notes you can share with other people, and you can collaborate. So you can both be in there working at the same time. I do this with Logseek personally, but there's plenty of other solutions. Microsoft has released Loop to be able to do this. Very simple tool. You jot down some notes. You can do some headings. You can throw in pictures. And again, you can share entire collections of notes or individual ones, and people can collaborate. The whole vision behind this is multiple people in there working at once. Now, here's where it gets confusing because you might say, hey, I could just use Teams to do a lot of this stuff, right? And that's where Loop originated. Or you might be thinking, wait a minute, don't we have Microsoft OneNote? Can't OneNote do this? And the answer to both those questions is absolutely yes. You've already got tools that do what Loop does. And if you go into Loop today, it is really, really basic. It's just hitting general availability now, so you can jump in and use it. If you've got an Office 365 account, it's free. If you're an outside user, I don't know exactly how they build it. I think they want you to be an Office 365 member. It has an iOS app, an Android app, a web-based app. It does not have a dedicated desktop app yet. And in my opinion, it doesn't really solve a problem anybody has. Like you've already got Teams, you've already got OneNote. OneNote sucks. I guess I should throw that out there, right? So maybe if you want a lighter version of OneNote, Loop makes sense. But I feel like this one's going to take a couple more years of development before it really gets to where it makes a difference for us.
So this seems to be quite a trend in a lot of our tech companies now, to where they don't want you to leave their platform. So they just start seeing what everybody else is doing on every other thing, and they try to incorporate that into their ecosphere so that you don't have to go away from them. And it seems like this is what Microsoft is doing, even though right now it sucks. Eventually it won't suck. Trust us. And if we can just get you hooked on using it because it's already there, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, this is a really smart idea.
Now, do you remember Google Wave, either of you?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I remember that.
I forget what year Google Wave came out. It was like 2003 or 2004.
That's a fake year.
It was in the early 2000s. Google created this thing where people could get in and collaborate, and they could share information. And at the time, most people looked at it and said, well, we'll just use email.
Yeah.
And Google did what ultimately killed that platform. It was a limited release beta. It was an invite-only beta. And so if you were lucky enough to get an invite, you'd go in there, but none of the people you worked with were in there. Or none of your friends had it.
It did nothing.
And so it was pointless.
Yeah.
And after a few years, they killed it off. So at least Microsoft's not screwing it up like that. They've made it generally available. Anybody can get in. You can send invites out. People can connect into it. And
I remember Google was invite only for a lot. Like Gmail, you had to have an invite.
Really?
Yeah, you couldn't just go sign up for Gmail. Someone had to invite you to it.
That's crazy, because now I can have like 8 Gmail accounts and nobody cares.
It's Gmail crazy at this point. I mean, I got 9 Gmail accounts. So
but people used to make fun of that because it was 10 years old and still in beta.
Right.
Like because it would say,
but it was like
beta
exclusivity, right? It made you think you were part of like this. If you had a Gmail address, like
don't get rid of that.
Whoa, that's kind of pimp, to have.
Is that what they said?
Yeah, that's right. It's 2003, right? You put me back in that time, or whatever it was.
It was dope.
Yeah. Fly.
It's debatable whether I was alive that year or not, so it's still up to question.
You were born what, 3, 4?
I'm not going to disclose that information.
Right.
That's nobody needs to know that.
I'm proud of you, Sophie. That's the right answer to that.
That's right.
You look hard enough, you can find it anyway. It doesn't matter. Nothing's a secret anymore. What you were talking about, where you see tech companies that will kind of just take qualities from other platforms that they see are successful and bring it to theirs. They don't want anybody to leave. I see that a lot with social media, like especially Instagram, how Instagram was supposed to be just for pictures, and then they incorporated video. They saw the success of Snapchat stories and added stories to Instagram. They saw the success of TikToks and added Reels now to Instagram, which is just not my favorite.
And then
it's not
YouTube
my
came
favorite.
out with Shorts because they were
exactly
on Instagram.
Exactly.
And TikTok.
And
so
TikTok.
Like,
so they're all just, and Snapchat now has a similar thing to TikTok. TikTok's like videos and stuff. It's, I don't know if it has a name, but you go over to a separate tab and you don't know how you got there. You're like, I just wanted to send a picture to somebody, and now I'm watching somebody bake a cake on Snapchat, and I didn't know that I could do that. So
I just wanted to send a picture, and then 2 hours later,
it's like everybody's copying off of each other's homework in the tech and social media space. So that is interesting. But yeah, so I do use Loop a lot just in my day to day, but I never use it outside of Teams. So
here's my challenge, because when I first heard about it, I don't know, 8 months ago or something, I use LogSeq like crazy. If you ever want to, I don't get paid by them, but it's LOGSEQ. It's free, and what LogSeq does is it lets me take notes.
Yeah.
And it stores them in Markdown format. And so all these notes that I've been taking for years at this point are all just text Markdown files.
Yep.
And if I ever want to leave LogSeq and move to something else, I can. Like, I've got all my notes. They're all in a standard text format that I can get. With Loop, there's no export functionality. So you can put all your notes and all of your collaborations and work and stuff like that into Loop, but you can't get them back out again. So you're trapped in that ecosystem. And maybe someday Microsoft will give us that. And I think with GDPR and all, they have to set something up.
Well,
but right now,
I'm thinking like, are there API calls I can make to like
there probably
that stuff
are
and do it programmatically?
But there's no easy way to do it.
Right. No, there's no like export this.
Yeah. So I'm not motivated to start using Loop yet. Be aware of the announcement. If you support Office 365 for a company, know that your users might start using Loop, and so you want to be aware of it. But in my opinion, it's not quite ready yet.
Well, that does seem to be the Microsoft way, right? Just put it out there,
see what happens,
and we'll let the people beta test it for us.
Nothing like a half-baked application.
That's right. As they complain, we know exactly where the problems are.
They should call it like Loop ME or Loop Vista. And so we know, right? When
this is not the fully baked version of this.
You mean this isn't invite only? You mean anybody can just use this?
Not anymore.
That's crazy. Wow. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. We'll stop bagging on Microsoft just for a little bit. This next article comes to us from The Register. Canonical intros microcloud, simple, free, on-prem Linux clustering. And the very first sentence of this article says Canonical hosted an amusingly failure-filled demo of its new easy-to-install Ubuntu-powered tool. And it's a long sentence. So anyway, I'm very interested in that. I know that's not the point of the article, but I'm very interested in that. Amusingly failure-filled. What does that mean?
All right. So, Daniel, you'll appreciate this.
The demo gods are never kind.
Yeah.
Right? It never. I don't care how perfect your stuff is. You go to Demo That Junk Live, get ready for a big fat crash.
So, Daniel and I, we've both been through this independently, but I think we've been through this together on camera before.
Yes.
Where they had this new technology they're rolling out, and they had it all scripted and automated where they could go in. They had like this 45-minute demo planned, and it didn't work. And it blew up, and the cluster didn't deploy, and it was a total Charlie Foxtrot. And they all dug in, and in their defense, they troubleshot and tried to debug while they were going.
Good for them.
And the demo ended up taking, I forget how long, like an hour and a half. It was like way longer than they intended on it taking. But they found the problem. There was a missing comma in one of the scripts.
Dude.
And I can't tell you how many times, or a missing semicolon, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had that.
So you know what burns my biscuits even more than it being a semicolon or something, mundane and simple like that, is you've been looking at that code for hours, and then someone walks over and goes, "Hey, you're missing a semicolon," like immediately, and you're like, "Oh no!"
That was like my only role on your shows was to be like, I think you're missing a comma. I don't even know what you're typing, but I know there's supposed to be a comma there.
Right.
That's the only role.
I was filming a Linux show a couple of years ago where I had a white space character on a line that I couldn't even see.
You can't see it.
And I ended up just like
blows
having
up your
to
script.
Delete the script, and just I'd manually typed it.
We were on that show together.
Was that?
It was me and you. Yeah.
And,
but I had the same thing because I had filmed. I think I was doing bash scripting, and my script straight up did not work. I'm like, why is this not working?
You knew it was right.
Looking at the code, I'm like, every bit. I retyped it out verbatim. Right, I didn't copy and paste. I retyped it, but I made sure like I did diff. Right, it doesn't check for white space. It said it's the same thing. I'm like, how is this the same thing?
Yeah.
Why is this not working? And there was an unseen character in there.
Yeah. Or I had the AWS script that worked every other time.
Oh my goodness.
That's
even worse.
You'd run it and it would work.
It works, and then it doesn't.
And so that day we're filming, and I've tested this script out. I knew it worked. I go to run it. It doesn't work. Yeah. So we stop, and I'm like, all right, let me test this. I test it.
Works.
And it works. We start filming again, and it fails. So finally what I had to do was like, okay, I need to run it twice while we stop filming,
right. So
get it to fail.
The next iteration will be the working one.
And damned if it didn't work. So I feel bad for them. Like I've been where they are.
By the way, it is fun to watch Don get mad because it doesn't happen often.
It is fairly rare.
You're just like, oh, he's getting hot right now.
And so I totally feel for them. But the point of the article,
who cares?
We totally relate to this. But, they are rolling out this new system, and it's supposed to be a simple Linux cluster. So you have 4 or 5 Ubuntu Linux boxes. You want to cluster them together so that you can throw containers on there, and they've created an easy system to do it. Now, I like that. I like the idea of, too many people are reliant on AWS or reliant on Azure or whatever. What if you want to just have your own cluster that you stand up?
Like a Kubernetes cluster?
Well, so Kubernetes is optional, which I also like because too many people just assume you have to do stuff with Kubernetes.
Right.
And I'll tell you, if you were supporting millions,
well,
but Kubernetes is Google.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Google. Google has funded.
Thing.
Nope.
Really?
Google has funded almost all of Kubernetes.
How about that?
Yeah. And so
you doing some fact checking over there?
Just Googling.
Yep.
Just doing some Googling.
See what Google says about it. But I'm not
know
biased at all.
This.
But a lot of people assume that they have to use Kubernetes, and if you're dealing with millions of concurrent customers, you probably do, right?
Gotcha.
But for most people, Kubernetes is way overkill.
Yeah,
and so what Canonical did is they have their own variation called microkates. Micro K, the number 8S.
Yeah.
Some people call it K8S or Micro K8s. That's their version, and it's a very stripped down version of Kubernetes. But you don't even have to use that with their micro cloud service. So you can stand it up and have a fully operational cloud. What'd you find, Sophie?
The first thing to come up came from Google's website, so I skipped that because you just never know.
Bias.
But Wikipedia, which we all know is reliable and never wrong,
Fact.
says originally designed by Google, the project is now maintained by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So it did come from Google. And then Google's site said Google Cloud is the birthplace of Kubernetes.
Well, there you go.
It was released as open source in 2014.
Fact
checked.
So I like this project. Because I like the idea of, hey, if I'm learning and I want to set my own, or, hey, I'm a small business. I'm not ready to start getting bilked for every penny out of AWS. Not that it's fraudulent or whatever, but it does get expensive. That here I could stand up my own. I like that idea. There's things I don't like, and I've been harping on this lately.
It's data mining.
They want you to use snaps.
Oh, your favorite.
Yeah, my favorite. So now, I already don't like snaps because of the difficulty of maintaining them from a security perspective. But now I'm supposed to be deploying back-end app architecture using a snap. That really just doesn't make sense to me. It supports containers, but it uses LXC, which really Canonical is the only one that supports anymore. So they've chosen their own technologies, which makes sense for them from a business perspective. But for me, it kind of hurts that ability of, is it a real learning environment if you're just learning these almost proprietary Canonical things?
Probably.
Well,
and there we have it.
Yeah.
There's the news, ladies and gentlemen.
I was going to say, I have nothing to add to that particular conversation. So,
and that's the way the news goes.
That's right. That's how the cookie crumbles.
I've got new things to add to my list of movies to watch, evidently. We'll go ahead and jump to our next article.
Mine was from Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Okay.
And mine was from...
Anchorman?
No, it was Evan Almighty.
Right. Oh, that's right.
Bruce Almighty?
Bruce Almighty, thank you, yes.
Okay, gotcha. I did see Evan Almighty, so that
was
doesn't...
funny,
it was a fun little flick.
Yep.
But we'll go ahead and move on. This next article comes to us from The Verge. Sam Altman fired as CEO of OpenAI. So pretty sudden, I think, from my perspective. But then again, I don't closely follow Sam Altman's activities. So for all I know, this was a long time coming. But I did see something recently that said it was like a day after he was fired, they were in talks to hire him back. And evidently now that's not the case. So what's going on here? What's happening?
Walk us through the timeline here, Don.
So normally when I pick articles for us to talk about here on the podcast, I always try and think of, all right, I'm a sysadmin or a CISO or somebody involved in supporting IT. Give me things that I need to take action on.
That's why we talked about Ghostbusters last week.
And yes, absolutely, very critical because you got to
bring the team together.
That's
you
true.
have to plan on your team taking time off.
Right.
That's a hard one to balance, right?
That's right.
So it's totally up to my whim. And not just me. You guys bring articles to the show.
Yeah. By the way, Don's going to need to see you in his office when we're done.
So this time, though, this is such a big thing going on right now that I feel like we have to talk about it a little bit. And if you haven't heard about this, you must be living under a rock because it's all over every news source that's out there. We know that AI right now is having its 15 minutes of fame, just like VR did a couple of years ago. We know where that went. But AI is the big thing. Everybody's looking at it. Most of the software that we use is trying to find ways to inject AI into it. Microsoft Windows, Apple is doing it. Like everybody is jamming AI wherever they can. And the company at the forefront of that is OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is a weird company because they're
they got like llamas and stuff in the lobby.
Well, the main thing is like they're at a $90 billion valuation.
Whoa.
And they're a not-for-profit.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It is interesting. And technically, they are just chewing through dollars like crazy because the infrastructure required to support AI like this is insanely expensive.
Yeah.
And you've got companies like Microsoft that have just been dying to acquire them, but they're a not-for-profit, so they don't consider themselves for sale. So Microsoft invested $3 billion straight up in cash into them with a $13 billion commit of Azure hardware to like run their infrastructure. Microsoft is the most heavily invested in OpenAI. And OpenAI basically imploded this weekend and went nuts. So the board of directors, which are very much not-for-profit people, really started to get frustrated with their CEO, Sam Altman. And they haven't given us a truthful reason for what's going on here yet. But basically what they said is that Sam Altman was lying to the board about stuff. We don't know what that stuff was, right?
He said he invented the question mark.
Oh, yeah, that'll do
Just
that.
random lies. They weren't even business related.
And, Sam Altman, he is a serial entrepreneur.
Well, so you said entrepreneur after that.
Yeah. So, I could see, he probably has different goals than what the board did, but they fired him.
Yeah.
And when they did that, immediately there was a revolt. The president also stepped down, one of the other co-founders. A letter was signed by 550 employees. Now, they only have 700 employees. So
2/3.
Almost all the employees signed a letter saying, if you don't hire Sam Altman back, we're going to quit. We're going to leave and go work for Sam at whatever he does next. And so then OpenAI had to go back and try and rehire him. And so they were in negotiations to rehire him. In the meantime, Microsoft hired him. Microsoft hired Sam Altman. This was announced yesterday, or actually on Monday.
It's like a soap opera.
There will be a Netflix documentary on this, guarantee. The former president, whose name I'm forgetting because all the headlines, Greg.
Just Greg.
Just Greg.
Monomer.
Yeah.
Just Greg.
Cher.
Greg McFizzlebottom.
Greg Brockman. All right. Caleb, our director here, is saving me. Greg Brockman.
I was close.
Who also quit in protest. He got hired by Microsoft. And Microsoft literally told them, if any employee from OpenAI wants to come work for us, they got a job.
We will hire you.
And so what's happening is this is the most shocking acqui-hire ever.
Right.
You got a company worth $90 billion, and Microsoft is about to get it for literally nothing.
Yeah.
For free.
For salaries.
It's like the biggest Christmas present possible. And it has to make me wonder, and this, all right, now everything I've said so far has been pretty factual. Let me go into Don Conjecture land. I have to imagine that Microsoft has bribed the board.
Well,
right?
I was going to say, we could go even further. We could say, let's make this a tinfoil hat section where does OpenAI use Teams and O365 as their communications channels? Because maybe some stuff was just here's some lies from Sam that's just generated by
What if the lies were ChatGPT hallucinations?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe
they just generated it.
That's
okay.
it. That's it.
So this is here's a tinfoil hat, Charlie Foxtrot, just an absolute disaster that you can't take your eyes off of.
No, I can't wait to see what happens because now, obviously, when you say that Microsoft hired these people, they're going to work.
Oh yeah.
This isn't like they extended them an offer and it's on the table and they're going to see what they're going to do. They have accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes. The talks to rehire fell apart. And Microsoft has officially hired Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, so they are Microsoft employees now, and that's not going to change. Now, whether OpenAI can recover from this, we'll see.
They're all like, enough of this nonprofit bullshit. I'm about to go work for Microsoft.
Oh, man, it is. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It is bizarre to have a $90 billion company that is in such a precarious position. It's a train wreck.
Well.
Yep.
Can't wait to see how it all unfolds, Don.
Now, let me bring this back to ground level. Right now, in 2023, I'll make this a little bit depressing.
Yeah.
There have been record tech layoffs, right? There have been more layoffs this year than the dot-com boom.
Yeah.
Since the dot-com boom. I think dot-com boom was more. But a lot of layoffs. And many of those tech workers in a crowded job market said, you know what, maybe now's the time for me to create a startup. And so there have been a lot more startups this year than in previous years too.
Because they couldn't get a job, so they make their own job.
Yeah. Or hey, while I'm killing time searching for a job, why not work on this software project?
Yeah.
And many of them said, AI is the technology that's going to work. I'm going to leverage ChatGPT and make something.
Right. Because most AI apps out there are basically an API called the ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah. Because the hardware infrastructure is way too expensive for you to set up on your own. So people attach to it. And Caleb brought up here over 240,000 lost jobs in 2023. That's a lot of tech workers, and some of them are standing up new startups. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine that you're taking a risk. You're creating a startup, and you're basing it on OpenAI, and now that company's imploding before your very eyes, and you have no control over it. Right? Potentially, they could snatch that right out. They could do a Reddit. and say, nope, we're turning off our APIs. Nobody can use our stuff. And
that would totally host some companies.
Some people will go homeless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there is some real danger here.
Oh.
I hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, I think that we would learn our lesson about putting all our eggs in a singular basket.
Yeah.
Right. It's you gotta spread out the love, ladies and gentlemen. Don't use one giant ecosystem because then they've got you.
Yeah.
If you're invested wholesale into one thing, yes, that is convenience, but if they ever decide to turn the lights out on you, you are done.
And right now, when your alternative is Google's Bard.
Yes. So I use Bard.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I'll keep ChatGPT and Bard up in 2 tabs and ready to rock. And I will ask them both the same question. I found an interesting one this week on the AI kick here. I was just trying to get some programming thing to work. And I needed a variable with I should have said lipsum or whatever, the
lorem ipsum.
Lorem ipsum, thank you. Stuff, but I didn't for whatever reason. I thought I'll use an open book, like Moby Dick. I said, hey, create a variable with the first 10 lines of Moby Dick in it, and Bard was like, cool, and it used that, and then I could see it, and I'm reading the code that it spit out for me, and then all of a sudden it disappeared and goes, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's weird. Why are you doing it? So I had to do it with Tom Sawyer. Worked fine. I'm like, and every time I mentioned Moby Dick, freaked it out. And it would spit it out.
Like some kind of filter.
And it would be there for maybe 5 seconds. And then it would delete all that. And I'm like, what's going on? So I go over to ChatGPT. ChatGPT's like, sure, I'll do that. And works just fine. But then I noticed I changed it from Moby Dick to Tom Sawyer in ChatGPT, and it kept referencing Moby Dick, even though I told it, no, go Tom Sawyer. I tell you are putting in Moby Dick.
Yeah.
You need to do Tom Sawyer. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, and it would do Moby Dick again. I'm
yeah,
like,
you have to create a new conversation.
Yeah, it totally freaked it out.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was, but I see that happen where ChatGPT can do something that Bard can't, and then I see Bard do stuff that ChatGPT can't. So I use multiple tools to get to my solutions.
Which is probably good.
Yeah.
That you're not having to rely on one.
I don't put all my eggs in one basket.
That is true.
I diversify.
Until one day you log in and Bard is like, so Daniel, are you still seeing ChatGPT?
Yeah.
I thought we were exclusive.
Like, if you can generate a better girlfriend than her, then, let's see you win.
That's
this
what
fight.
the G stands for in ChatGPT. It stands for girlfriend.
That's right. My AI girl.
And the T is thruple.
No way.
I think that's the first time that word has been used in our podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the subtitles catch that one.
Oh boy. Well, on the topic of this whole Sam Altman OpenAI poaching, whatever you want to call it, have y'all ever seen Jerry Maguire?
Yeah.
Yes.
With Tom Cruise. So you know how he gets fired and he leaves, and Dorothy Boyd goes with him. So does that make Greg the Dorothy Boyd to Sam Altman's Jerry Maguire?
I think so, yeah.
That's a decent analogy there.
Does he have a son of about 5 years of age? They're going to be one big happy family. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a quick break here before we get too far off the rails. But don't worry, we'll be right back with more security articles here on Technado. Tired of trying to schedule your team's time around in-person learning? Isn't it a bummer to spend thousands of dollars on travel for professional development? What if we said you can save money and time and still provide your team with the best training possible? The answer to your woes is live online training from ACI Learning. With live online training, we provide our top in-person courses in private, online, instructor-led formats. You get to provide professional development in a manner that fits today's expectations. Entertaining, convenient, and effective. Our exam-aligned courses inspire the full potential of your team. Visit virtual instructor-led training at ACI Learning for more info. Welcome, and thanks for joining us for the second half of Technado. Thanks so much for sticking with us through the break. And just a reminder, if you are watching from YouTube, we would love to hear from you in the comments below what you think about the tech news we've talked about so far, what you want to see on episodes in the future, whatever you'd like to leave in the comments, just so long as you're not too mean and you don't say any bad words.
Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah, honestly.
If you want to be mean, that's fine, but try to keep it PG, please, because otherwise we got to censor stuff, and it's just not fun if you like start dropping cuss words in the comments. It's not fun for anybody.
Some weird things in the comments.
Yeah,
Don't be that person.
Yeah, you can be funny, you can be kind of mean,
just don't be weird.
But like, don't make me feel like I have to go into witness protection.
Or take a
There's
shower.
a line. There's a line. But other than that, we love to hear from you. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we love to hear from y'all as well. If you want to reach out to us on socials, we would appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and jump into our security articles now. This first one's going to be fun. Comes to us from Bleeping Computer. Ransomware gang files SEC complaint over victim's undisclosed breach. So you guys can probably explain this a little bit better, but it's a ransomware. It's the Black Hat ransomware operation, right? That they filed a complaint with the SEC against one of their own victims because they didn't disclose a cyber attack quick enough, but it was their attack that they were not disclosing. So that confuses me. Why would you report?
Next article, you got it.
Maybe you can explain why do this?
Why does anybody do anything? Really? Come on.
Yeah.
Money.
All right.
So we've heard of ransomware gangs taking different approaches, right? So in the early days, ransomware would hit your machine, it would encrypt it and lock it, and you couldn't get at your data, and that was that, right?
Good times. I mean, simpler times.
In fact, some of the first ones would just simply lock your computer. You couldn't use it at all.
Yeah.
And they said, well, wait a minute, let's let them use their computer so they can still buy Bitcoin, but we'll just encrypt their data and block that off. And then you'd have to pay a ransom in order to get access to your data. Well, when people stopped paying the ransom, they said, we gotta do something better. And so then the next escalation was, hey, if you don't pay our ransom, we're going to exfiltrate your data. So we're not just encrypting your machine, we're copying your data off, and we'll post it publicly. We'll share it with other people. Pay the ransom. And so now, even if you like format and reinstall or recover from a backup, now they still have your data. They're going to leak it out, and they can continue to extort you. They would get kind of targeted with some of this stuff. They would try and like send stuff to your family members or whatever. But with companies, it was really effective because if they breached a company and a company wasn't paying the ransom, they could say, you know what, we're going to reach out to your customers. We're going to tell your customers what happened, and we're going to expose your customers' data, and that's going to hurt your reputation and so on. Well, again, companies have been really moving along and getting to where they don't want to pay the ransom. They've got various protections, and they've learned, I joked about this last week, as long as you give people credit protection, then we're off the hook, right? So companies feel like they don't have to do anything.
Jail-free card, huh?
Well, the SEC passed a rule, and the rule said if you're a publicly traded company and you have a data breach, you've got to report it within 72 hours is GDPR.
It's like 4 days, right?
Is it 4 days?
Yeah.
So 96 hours. So you got 4 days to report it. And what this particular group, ALF-V or however you say it.
I know. I can never pronounce that. I don't get it.
It doesn't matter. Whatever they're called.
I loved ALF, and now they're a ransomware gang.
They said, all right, we've compromised this company, Meridian Link. We've installed our ransomware. It's encrypted machines. We've told them, hey, we've got your data. We've proven it. We've shown that we've got your data. And yet you're not paying the ransom, and you haven't disclosed it. So they're trying to find ways to extort them to get them to pay the ransom. And so now they're saying, wait a minute, you haven't disclosed to your customers. There's an SEC rule. What is the SEC going to think about it?
Yeah.
And so they said, hey, if you don't pay up, we're going to tell the SEC. And Meridian Link didn't pay up. And so they told the SEC, the ransomware group actually went to the SEC website and filed a report saying, hey, Meridian Link's been compromised. We did it. We can show you we did it. And they aren't letting their customers know. And so they're trying to add more pressure to pay the ransom. Now, I don't think it's going to work because, one, they didn't disclose it. So they're already in trouble with the SEC regardless, right?
Well, I thought we read that actually hasn't taken effect yet. It's not until December.
Oh, the rule hasn't taken effect yet?
The rule is technically not in effect.
Then it's definitely not going to work.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Right. So I don't know where they were getting the idea that this was actually going to push them over the edge. Maybe it was more of a, hey, let's start testing this and putting it out there that this is a valid.
Straight from Caleb. December 15th, 2023 is when it takes effect.
There you go.
So Meridian Link's just under the wire.
Yeah, they're like, ooh.
They're like, we got to get our breach in now.
Eat a black cat.
They're actually doing a favor to Meridian Link.
Yeah,
if they had just breached them after the 15th, it'd be a bigger debacle.
But as of now, it's like, I felt like this was more of a, let's prime the pump for this becoming a pressure that we can push against and let them know it's not a joke. I'm actually going to file with the SEC against you if you do not disclose, as so a little more pressure.
Now, let's say that you work at the SEC.
Yeah.
And you get this notification from an admitted criminal.
Yeah.
Right? So
no honor amongst thieves, huh?
Yeah, and what do you do? So like technically they don't do anything now, right? So let's pretend it's after the 15th.
Right. This is December 16th. They filed with the SEC.
You're like, hey, it looks like there's been a breach. I guess, actually, I think I understand how this would go.
Okay.
Chain of custody is obviously broken here.
Yeah.
You cannot trust evidence from a criminal.
Well, you would have to do an investigation.
That would be the next step.
Right.
Yeah. And so, can we confirm a breach occurred?
Right, because it's like lawsuits, right? I can sue a ham sandwich if I want to.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you're going to get anything.
You might win for failure to appear.
Right. It could happen. By default. Ham sandwich, you owe me. Good luck collecting, though.
Yeah, there you go. So I think this is a sign of what's to come.
Yeah.
Right? Because it used to be that ransomware didn't exfiltrate data. Now they all do. Right? It's just kind of standard practice. And it used to be that they didn't notify the customers. Now they do. So this is just the next step up is, trying to leverage the government tools.
Well, now I'm starting to try to think, let's say I'm a bad actor out there and I'm just rando filing SEC complaints that aren't true. What's the point?
Well,
right?
What if
tie up their investigative team to...
Could you get lucky?
I mean, you probably could.
So let's assume that every company has been breached because that's probably not that big of an assumption.
It's kind of like the whole porn extortion or sextortion thing, right?
Oh, those random emails that go out.
I just send out random emails saying I've got pictures of you doing horrible things. They're not flattering. And I'm going to send them to your family. It's the same kind of idea, just applied to if I threw a wide enough net, I probably am going to catch some people that have done some bad stuff. And now I'm going to bring scrutiny upon you. So you might as well just give me some money.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the same kind of play.
I think what the SEC will likely do, we'll have to see what actually happens, but is they can't act on this information coming in from a criminal. So what they can do is wait, and Meridian Link did come out and say, yes, there was a cybersecurity incident. So they have now publicly disclosed it. In the future, they might wait, and I think we're going to talk about this today. Oh, no, we talked about it last week, right, where they took 6 months to disclose.
Oh, yeah.
And so if they see that, right. Somebody comes out and discloses something from 6 months before. Now the SEC can come in and look at it and do their investigation, not based on what a criminal says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you probably could sue a ham sandwich and get some money out of it because they're known for their cheddar. So I really do think that you would be successful.
Funny.
I did my best.
That's
job. What I contribute to these articles. It's nothing to do with the source material.
She's
absolutely
like, I heard
nothing.
About these computers.
It's just
very interesting.
I'm here. It's a balance. It's
a balance.
Because Don's a genius and Daniel's here too. So got to be a balance in there somewhere. No, you won't. That's why I'm dressed like this. I will be sneaking.
Was
out.
it from Happy Gilmore? Congratulations, you can count.
Yeah, you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot.
Oh boy, my mom will love that one. We'll go ahead and move on to our next article. This one comes to us from Tom's Hardware. Crypto mining rigs hidden in Polish court building to steal electricity. So this is fun. I mean, it's not fun for the people that are getting electricity stolen from them, but that is a fun title there.
Spider-Man 2 PS5s for $499.
This is not sponsored. It's not sponsored by the folks over at Sony. So I'm curious if maybe one of you guys can break this down a little bit more for somebody at my level.
Over the years, these pop up where people find secret computers in their building, and sometimes it's listening devices or it's intercepting traffic. Daniel, I think you've done some specials on this where people can harvest data and then just come back later and collect it.
Yep.
Network sniffers, that kind of thing. But oftentimes it's just crypto mining, right? That
we get one or two of these a year usually.
Yeah. Crypto mining at this stage, with Bitcoin specifically, is no longer worth it, right? You cannot mine Bitcoins for less than the cost of the electricity you consume to do it. And so it's not, you can't make money doing it anymore, not like in the olden days. You could argue you never made real money, but that's a whole different thing. So, but today, if you wanted to get started, Bitcoin mining today, it just does not make sense economically, right? Unless you can steal your electricity. And in Ukraine earlier this year, they busted this warehouse where they had illegally tapped into the city power. And so they were powering an entire Bitcoin mining farm off of stolen electricity. That makes sense. Yeah. You can make money doing that.
I've heard about there was a power company that is a wind generator that used wind. and the industrial control systems for running those windmills were hacked, and they installed crypto miners, and they found out about it, and they were like, we haven't had any downtime since they've taken over, so just let them keep going.
They keep the system online.
They're like, we'll give you electricity and CPU cycles. We only need very little of this.
Yeah.
So they just saw them as IT.
And in that scenario where it's wind, it's a renewable energy, is not a cost to it aside from the equipment.
Right.
Versus normally when you're stealing from the city grid, it's coal,
right?
And so there's an actual cost behind it.
There's still actual costs, but since you're so close to the actual source of the energy, it's super cheap.
Now, in this particular scenario, it's the Polish court system, so this is a sensitive network,
right?
And what they found after doing an investigation is that the company they were contracting with to do IT services, 2 of their employees had installed computers under the floor. So there was, like a raised floor under the floor. So they were in air-conditioned environments where they had electricity that they could steal.
Yeah.
And they were mining Bitcoin.
And cooling.
And
because underneath those subfloors is freezing.
It's really cold. Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
And they were using their own modems. So they had their own little wireless network they were communicating on. So you couldn't see it on the network. It wasn't consuming internet bandwidth. It was just CPU power, really just stealing the electricity. We don't know how long it was there for, but it shows you how vulnerable some of those systems are and how challenging it can be to find IT vendors that are trustworthy, that are not going to install crazy stuff on your network.
Well, and plus you never know, some rando that works for that company, the company might be legit and like very up and up. They just happen to hire the wrong person, and they're in there installing crypto miners underneath your subfloor.
And, I found with some IT workers, this is not a generalization, it doesn't apply to everybody, but with some IT workers, when they're younger, they first get into the IT field, and they don't necessarily think about some of the things they do as being criminal, right? Like going on Pirate Bay and downloading movies.
Right.
They don't view that as a criminal activity, even though it is.
It is.
And you can justify things in your mind several different ways, but they probably looked at it as, this is a public facility,
right?
And I'm just going to stick a computer on the floor. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's my CPU, and it's just electricity that comes out of the wall. It's obviously free.
Plus, they're a big company; they can afford this.
Yeah. Right? And so I could probably see that being the logic that went behind somebody doing it.
We can justify lots of stuff.
Or it could be totally nefarious, and this is like some kind of Russian cartel that's gone in and
they're
done
doing
whatever.
horrible things with that money.
So we don't really know, but you can't blindly trust IT staff.
Right.
If it's your full-time staff, you develop that trust, right? But when they're contractors, you've got to trust but verify, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get creative. It would have been very hard to find this equipment. It was found by accident in this case, but very hard to find if it's not using your network, if it's not generating traffic that you can see that way. Really hard to spot it.
I was going to say, it didn't look like there was anything that really, like you said, they found it by accident. There was nothing really to tip them off, like, oh, we saw a spike in this, or it's crazy, something happened, like because they were so careful about they're using their own modem and all that stuff. I wonder how long it could have gone on if they hadn't stumbled upon it, basically.
Yeah, that's the big point, is like they could have been cooking Bitcoin for God knows how long, like forever. Who knows how much they've made off of that? I would be interested in how much they actually made.
Did it cover the hardware costs that they lost? Yeah.
Right.
What's that line from Anchorman where he's like, I'm not even mad, I'm just impressed. Like
yeah, right.
Like, wow, you pulled that out. I mean, it's still obviously bad. Yeah. Don't commit crimes. Use your powers for good. But I'm a little impressed,
it's
such
like a weird thing. You're just like, hey,
don't do that. But how'd you do that? That was kind of cool,
Yeah.
So not cool though. No. Crime is bad. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So but they did find it, and it looks like the president of the court terminated the contract with said company after they found these. So I mean, this is interesting. By my estimation, I think this is interesting.
And it shows why doing like a site audit is a good thing. Once a year you check around and you look for things like equipment that shouldn't be there. And you'd be surprised. Like that's how you can find where there's rubber duckies, like a USB key on a server that shouldn't be there. You need to do physical inspections.
I've recently been kind of on a hardware kick lately about ESP boards and all that stuff. And I saw somebody that was taking a Raspberry Pi and one of those little hydroelectric generators you stick in a river or whatever, and it generates electricity. And they hooked it up to a Raspberry Pi and had a Bitcoin mine. And they did it for a day, and they made like 5 cents or whatever, right? And while that's not impressive, go get some of that free energy out there, right? Like there's ways to do this that won't land you in prison or have you have your stuff confiscated. Go. The problem is that people go, well, if I can stick one hydroelectric dam in here, I can stick 1,000. And they get stupid with it. Yeah.
There was a few years ago where it was a university, and it was a person who was responsible for supporting one of their computer labs. Yeah. And he had this idea like, hey, these computers are sitting here idle at night.
Well, that's
so
right.
I'm going to install Bitcoin miners. And at the end of the day, at like 8 p.m., when all the students go home, it'll start churning through mining Bitcoin, 100% CPU.
Right.
And then at 7 a.m., before the students come in, it turns off, and victimless crime.
Except for the electricity that was killing them.
The electricity cost, and it wears the hardware out faster,
That's true.
right? Yep. So, but he didn't think about that. Just let it run, and off he went. So, yeah, there've been a number of scenarios like that.
Yeah. You're selling me on the screw Bitcoin more and more every time we do an article.
Slowly, I'll convert you all.
That's going to become a new
segment. I didn't really have a
segment.
stake in the game one or the other, but every time we talk about Bitcoin, it's used in some crime.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not in Greenpeace. So, I'm not.
Don's not wearing paper shoes and hugging any trees.
But at the same time, crypto mining is such a waste of electricity and resources that it is shocking to me that more people aren't opposed to it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's going to become a new segment here on Technado.
Yeah.
Screw Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Sponsored by
Don shoes, not paper.
Not Birkenstocks.
No.
I got real confused for a second there. I was like, did we have a malfunction on the camera? We'll go ahead and...
He was fact-checking.
He was fact-checking. Yeah. Good on you, Caleb. We appreciate that. We'll go ahead and jump into our next article. This one comes to us from Tech Radar. Samsung confirms data breach. Here's what you need to know. So in this article, I just kind of went through it very quickly. Does this article actually tell us what we need to know?
It does. So the main thing here is the web storefront for Samsung for the United Kingdom. So just kind of letting you know the customers that would be exposed. Was compromised. Attackers got in, they installed middleware where they were able to intercept information that was being communicated across that server. And what's really shocking here is the exposure time. So if you purchase anything from Samsung's UK store between July 1st, 2019 and June 30th, 2020, like for an entire year, then your data is compromised. You're screwed. So
I don't see the problem here, Don.
There's a few interesting things to me on this, right? So one, the website was compromised for an entire year. An entire year, customer data was leaking out. The second thing, it was through June 30th of 2020. That's 3.5 years ago.
Whoa.
2.5 years ago. Bad math. 2.5 years ago. What's the disclosure window? Like the UK was still
it's
in.
Once you find out.
Oh, so
if they've recently discovered that, then that's when the window starts.
Wow! Imagine finding that out, like just discovering. So what?
Yeah.
What
So
happened?
I've got to betray my incompetence.
What happened on June 20th, 2020? June 30th? Did the attackers just say, "All right, we got enough," and they walked away?
Man, I mean, we got all that data done. Well, I guess we go move on to the next.
Do we keep going? No, we can't spend the money we got.
Yeah. I mean, how many Lambos does one person need?
Yeah, if I had to buy one more garage.
Yeah, jeez, it's kind of getting ridiculous.
Yeah. So this one, I mean, it's tough. I have to assume that they like switched vendors or upgraded their website or something and just accidentally fixed the glitch.
Plugged the hole, yeah.
And then somehow, over 2 years later, they discovered, oh, wait a minute. What is this?
That middleware was probably like acting as a feature to some people, and they started complaining when it no longer worked. Hey, I can't get my data stolen anymore. What's up with that?
It's not a bug. It's a feature, right?
I was really enjoying that.
Yeah, it's strange. So rest assured, Samsung, the official quote is that they have taken the necessary steps to resolve the issue. So there's that. But it does have to make you wonder. We keep seeing these breaches like Sony, where Sony's was fully compromised several years ago. And
recently, right?
It's a hard game
Sony
right now.
again, not too long ago.
Yep. But a much smaller one. The first time, I mean, it was wide open. This time, it was not as bad.
Be as big.
Well, that's true.
Here's the thing: we didn't realize how big it actually was, and then Samsung will probably be doing the same thing.
And maybe Samsung will come back. Right now, they're saying no financial data, no bank data. It's just your identity, your email address, your purchase history, like that kind of stuff.
Today
is what they're saying today. Yeah. But, when I think about like the networks that I manage, if I had to go back and look at data from 2 years ago, I don't normally have that. Right? And I guess, maybe if it's financial transactions, you have to store that in the U.S. for 7 years. So maybe it's longer. But, it would be really hard to go and find server logs from years ago. Like that stuff you just don't normally retain that long.
What are you going to do?
I know this has come up several times, but I do love whenever this kind of thing is talked about. There was a breach, something happened, there was an exploit. The language is always real vague. It's always like, well, you may or may not have been impacted, and some of your data may or may not have been exposed. No sensitive information, though.
Yeah.
They always start off with no sensitive information.
Yeah, no sensitive information. Right. But then, a month later, it's...
No financial or no passwords were touched.
There's two things you can count on, right? So there's one, trying to minimize what data was leaked. And then the other one is it was a sophisticated cyber attack. Now, it wasn't a regular attack. We could have stopped a regular attack.
They changed ID equals 720 to 1.
I mean, this is advanced. No one has ever seen anything like this before.
So sophisticated.
Yeah, that's like the word of the day. In fact, I think I'll have to test this out. Like, we Google the word sophisticated.
Yeah.
Is it mostly breach notifications or is it the definition of the word? But it's just one they've kind of fallen to. I'm sure we'll learn more on this. The thing that I would take away from this is a company like Samsung has incredibly sophisticated laboratories where they develop microchips and processors and so on. But their web storefronts are oftentimes powered by really basic shopping cart systems. And those are extremely vulnerable, and you'll see these big companies get hit just like small companies.
Was it MageCart or Magento? What's the hack?
Magento is a big one. WooCommerce is another. Like, you keep hearing about these ones getting hit. All right, Sophie, you have Googled sophisticated.
So when you just Google the word sophisticated, it is mostly definitions. It's Merriam-Webster and Oxford. But if you Google just the word sophisticated and then you go to news, 2023's online scams more sophisticated than ever. AI driving more sophisticated scams. Sophisticated cyber attack hits Clark County networks. Deep faked IDF soldiers. Sophisticated Russian campaigns. So it's a lot of it does have to do with deep fake, cybersecurity, that kind of stuff.
That's a good clickbait word. So that's
it is.
I think the pattern's established that if you're a business and you get compromised, whether you invested in security or not, as long as you use the word sophisticated to describe it and you buy credit protection for your customers, you're safe.
Yeah.
So just figure out, go ahead and strike that deal today. Get the cheapest credit protection. Get it from Equifax.
Right.
And there's your cybersecurity program. In fact, we should charge for this podcast because I just taught a whole generation how to be a CISO. Like, that's it. Yeah, you use the word sophisticated.
That's right.
Sign a contract for credit protection. Congratulations on being a CISO.
Sophisticated and cutting it, then you take it to the next level. Highly sophisticated.
State sponsored.
Boom.
State sponsored.
There's no way we could have prepared for this, Your Honor. This was highly sophisticated from an advanced persistent threat.
Ooh, APTs. It's got an acronym.
That's right. You know it's good. Using AI ML technologies to find that.
Just start throwing random words in there. They won't know.
Buzzword bingo that sucker.
We got to write a white paper.
Yeah.
We got to do this. I think we get this published.
Yeah.
Well, this is especially relevant now because, you've got Thanksgiving this week, Black Friday coming up. So, it says.
Be on the lookout for those sophisticated attacks.
Look out. 2023's online scams are more sophisticated than ever. So, if you see a Black Friday deal that looks too good to be true, it just might be. Yeah. So, that blender's probably not $5.
On a serious note, the Thanksgiving and Black Friday sales, Cyber Monday sales, are a tremendous battleground for scams.
Yeah.
Because, and Daniel, you do this in your social engineering. Actually, Sophie, you do this too, about how creating that sense of urgency is one of the tools of social engineering.
That's it.
And there's nothing like a Cyber Monday sale to generate that sense of urgency.
And like you say, because of the deep cuts that you get for Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and so on and so forth, it doesn't seem unreasonable that it would be at that price.
Yeah.
Right, where normally every day you get like
a PlayStation for $100
Oh, hell yeah, I'm going to totally. It's like, that's too good to be true. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that could be legit. Right? So it just really adds on to the legitimacy of what it could actually be and making you more susceptible to that. So just go straight to the horse's mouth. Don't click the links that show up in your spam filter because they say there's Cyber Monday, Black Friday deal.
Especially now.
Just go to wherever that's being
Just
sold.
go to Best Buy, wait in
don't
line.
click the link.
Yeah.
Right. Just don't click the link. Go, oh, wow, Best Buy's got $100 PS5s. Cool. BestBuy.com.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what you... Oh, no, they don't. That's a lie. Cool. I just saved myself
Mm-hmm.
a phishing campaign.
There you
Especially
go.
because I feel like, it used to be you had Black Friday, people go out and buy stuff in person, and
Yeah.
Cyber Monday was the online thing, right? It kind of seems like now it's just Cyber Black Friday week.
It's kind of like, yeah.
Nobody really goes to the store anymore. And it's almost like the whole month of November. It's like November 1st, you see stuff and it's like, our Black Friday sale starts in a week. Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, that it's barely Thanksgiving. So anyway, this whole month and probably going into the holidays,
Anywho.
be on the lookout for those sophisticated online scams, because evidently they're more sophisticated than ever.
Yes.
But yes, it is. I believe this episode is going to drop on Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to those of you in the U.S., those of you who celebrate. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. What are you guys thankful for this year? And I'm springing that on you.
That I did not become part of a tech layoff.
That is
Me too.
something worth
Me too.
being
Amen.
thankful
Thank you, Don, for not laying me off.
I
Speak for yourself.
I mean, I've given you ample reason.
I am thankful for the Detroit Red Wings not having a losing season at this point, like they have the last 8 years in a row.
That's right. Thank you, oh Lord. The Red Wings are not the worst.
I don't need a Stanley Cup. Just let's get some wins so it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
You are dressed like the most festively out of all of us. You match the set,
that's right.
which
There
is
we go.
great. You've
I
got
try.
the red.
I try.
and- yeah, you almost blend in with the table. It's kind of cool. Oh, there we go. Caleb's got it right there.
Yep.
Our
Wow.
Lightning is doing well.
They've got a streak. It's a
Oh,
losing
it's a
streak,
losing
but it's a
streak,
streak.
but
It's a losing streak.
But I'll take it. They're 8-6-3. It's a winning record.
Okay.
That
That counts
is
for something.
significantly better.
Go Red Wings.
Go Red Wings. I don't have a team that I support in that arena, so yeah. But by
We gotta
default,
fix
go
that.
Red Wings.
We got to fix that.
Well,
Hockey is the best sport. Let's
I know
be
Caleb's
honest.
cringing out there like, I can't believe you don't have a team you support. Well, I am thankful to be here with you guys. I'm very thankful to be able to host this show with you. I think it's a lot of fun. I know I'm getting a little bit serious and sappy here, but it is fun. And it's one of the things that I really do look forward to every week. No matter what else is going on in the office, this is like, I know it's going to be fun when we get in this studio. So I'm thankful to have that opportunity to do that. We would love to hear from y'all. If you are watching from YouTube, drop a comment down below. Tell us what you are thankful for. Spread some positivity this holiday season. We will be in this set, I believe, all month long. So if you are enjoying the holiday decor, you will get to see more of that. And if you did enjoy those security articles we just talked about, we actually have an All Things Cybersecurity webinar coming up at the end of the month. That's on November 30th at 2 p.m. Daniel Lowry, Bo Bullock, and myself. I said that right? Bo Bullock.
did, yeah.
And who's he with? What company is he
Black
with?
Hills.
Black Hills. So there you go. So if you are interested in seeing them talk about all things cybersecurity, you'll want to join us for that show as well.
Yeah, bring your cloud security questions because Bo is
Ooh.
a wizard with cloud security.
Yep.
So
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the inside scoop
do.
here. If you're watching now, you know
Inside
in
baseball.
advance. So that'll be next week. You will not want to miss that. If you want to watch any of our previous webinars or live and social events that have happened or any previous episodes of Technado, those all live on our YouTube channel right here. So feel free to check those out as well. It's a lot of fun. And then, of course, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you want to see in future episodes. And consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you left us a like. We do love to see that. We love to see that we're making a difference in somebody's day. I think that's pretty much going to do it for me. I want to thank our sponsor, again, ACI Learning, the people behind IT Pro, for supporting this podcast. That's what we do in our day jobs. We teach those courses, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And if you're interested in an IT Pro membership, you can use that code Technado30 for a discount. That's going to do it for me. Am I forgetting anything?
I was so tempted to throw out random fake sponsors.
Yeah. This episode brought to you by Equifax Credit Protection.
Cuisinart is our holiday
Rusty's.
sponsor. So I'm going to take that as a no then.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm thankful that you guys joined us for this episode, even though it's your job and you have to. And I'm thankful that all of you watched this episode with us today. Hope you enjoyed, and we hope to see you back here next week for another episode of Technado.